Namaskar, everyone. It is an absolute pleasure to be recording the podcast after a gap of 3 years. And I have always tried to ensure that through this podcast, law students and students of policy and otherwise are inspired by role models in the field of law and public policy. I started the first episode by hosting uh, respected Julio Ribeiro sir. And in the last episode, which was recorded 3 years ago, I had respected VP Raja sir to share their journeys, insights, and that has certainly helped, and all the other speakers also, in shaping the mindset of so many students. Today, we have another star and a role model, and his name is Sarvesh. I am a big fan of Sarvesh, firstly, to be very honest. When you will hear his introduction now, you will also know why. And when you will hear him, you will also become his fan, I'm sure. So before we start, Sarvesh, I would just like to formally introduce you to our audience. Mr. Sarvesh Nayak is presently working as a consultant at Godrej Living Private Limited. He is an alumnus of the Government Law College Mumbai, where he consistently excelled academically, achieving the first rank in his batch for 3 consecutive years with scores of distinction in subjects like constitutional law, jurisprudence, family law, contracts, etc. He secured All India rank 147 in the general category and All India rank 2 in the persons with disabilities category in CLAT PG 2025. He has contributed to the Public Concern for Governance Trust, that is PCGT, as an intern campus ambassador and also a resource person, researching preventive detention laws, attending specialized lectures on the RTI Act and POCSO Act, organizing the good governance debate competition, and taking part in the voter awareness drive. Mr. Nayak also served on the Student Editorial Board of the Constitutional Law Society and was class representative in Students Council of Government Law College. He was associated with the ADR cell of GLC, assisting in organizing national ADR competitions and drafting ADR simulations. He has participated in prestigious Moot competitions like the DM Harish Memorial International Moot Competition, youth parliaments including the PCGT Model Youth Parliament, and the National Leadership Summit organized by Government Law College in 2022. His interests span across law and policy research, human rights, disability rights, and public administration, and he has also authored papers and essays on the said subjects. Despite being visually impaired, Sarvesh, as he would prefer being called, uh, has very strong determination and skills with respect to legal research, drafting, and critical thinking, which have set him on a path towards a career in-house as an in-house counsel, which he's doing now, also teaching academia and public policy research. He's contributing significantly to legal education and public policy and making a meaningful impact in his field. Sarvesh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Shivam sir, for that introduction. And a very warm greetings to all your audience, who many of whom will be my friends and well-wishers.
Amazing. So, Sarvesh, before we discuss your experience as a law student and now as an in-house counsel, let us talk about your early life and preschool life. Also, your experiences in the special school for blind boys, where the contribution of the people that you met there and the lessons learned and the values that you inculcated there have shaped you as a person today based on what we had discussed before. So could you please share those experiences with us?
All right, sir. I feel that's a very detailed question, capturing about, if I count my current life, capturing about two-thirds of it. So I was born in 2001, although didn't want to disclose my age like that. So when I was born blind.
Because you disclosed it, sorry, now you are the youngest on the podcast. So it's a very big achievement.
Right.
Yes.
So in 2001, when I was born blind. And my family discovered that within 7 months of my birth, or I would say not before the 7th month of my birth. So after that, I can divide my life, as you put in your question, in 2 times. One is the completely preschool life, and the other is just during the school life, whose lessons and whose values still are with me, and I think they will be with me forever. So during the preschool life, I was a child infant who is not aware of his condition. So I would be socializing in the very same normal ways as others do. I would have peers, contemporaries, the same age boys in the same chawl where I was born in Thane. And I would play with them all the sports physically active which others do. Despite my visual condition, the condition of my eyesight was largely the same which is today. But that is something I attribute to the psychological aspects of it. And this may have been the period of first 5 to 6 years of my life. But around the same time, I think I was one of those childs who are very matured early in life. So around 4 to 5 years, when my age was 4 to 5 years old, I started feeling this, that why these people are going to school whereas I'm not. And although I wouldn't ask my parents that question why I'm not going, because the approach will be send me to school, and they will try to send me to normal schools. I will go there, I'll sit there for a day and then return home. But next day, even I wouldn't have the enthusiasm to go, and they also know that there's no point in me sending to those schools. That was the mindset then. And this may have been for a year, but I'm still playing with those normal boys, those sighted boys, and I'm not having any issues except a very so for example, if we are playing a sport which involves running, if I look back, I don't remember me getting hurt or falling, not because of eyesight, because of the absence of eyesight a lot. So maybe I've forgotten those memories on it, but I was feeling very normal about myself. It was age 6 when accidentally my parents met a person in train who also happened to have some relative with visual impairment, and therefore he knew about a school. And there, my first phase ended, and the second phase, which has shaped my entire life positively, negatively, as well as whatever I am today, that began. That person briefed my parents about the school. My mom was very much desperate to finally discover that school completely and to send me there as a last hope for anything which can bring meaning in my life. I, as a child, did not know the seriousness of this incident then. In fact, I wasn't even aware that they are discussing to put me in a school which is a boarding school. So the day they dropped me to the school, I went there very excitedly. I thought finally I'm also going to have a school. But the moment they dropped me in school that day, because that was very far from my home, I stayed at Thane. The school was in Worli. We had traveled by train. When they dropped me in school and when they left for home, and I found out that I have to spend the night here, I started crying. I started throwing the things around me. There was a telephone kept for reception on the reception desk. I started throwing that first. I remember very strongly now. So that was the behavior of mine. That was the day one. And I feel later on, I never missed that thing of not going home, etc. And then the second phase began. Now, this was a boarding school where I would live for 5 days a week. On weekends, I would go home with my parents to stay. This was a policy of the school so that the child is learned to stay independent, as well as the ties with his families are not completely broken off, as usually happens with the people who are continuously kept in boardings or hostels. So I started observing or started experiencing the deep thinking and philosophical approach which the management of the school had in everything that they would do, or that they would adopt as a policy towards the welfare of the child. So that was a school where we were not only taught traditional subjects which are a part of Maharashtra State Board, such as the languages, the social sciences, arithmetic, and uh, general sciences, as we call them. Apart from these subjects, they also taught people of our age, that is the students and children between age 6 to 18, as we can call them. They also taught them skills such as vocational training or pottery, music, and apart from that, physical training and craft is a mandatory subject, as you all know, in the Maharashtra State Boards. So it was a long school hours. I would have, that is starting from 10 a.m. in morning, ending going on till 5:30 in the evening, covering all those subjects in around 9 to 10 periods. Apart from that, there would be hostel where I would be forced to stay in a situation where I would learn myself many things to be independent. to help, which will help me later on in life. So until I went to school, my sister would feed me. I wouldn't feed myself by my own hands, but such is life. From the day one in my school, I knew how to feed myself, and I started using my own hands to feed myself. It's just a random sign of independence which the school forcefully inculcated in us, but it went much ahead of that. Um, if I talk about the skills that the school inculcated, so there would be often classes related to communications, often classes related to how to talk to people, because when you can't see, you don't know even the fact that others can see you. So it started from very basic. And if I tell a very special thing about my school, the management from top to the bottom was so strict that they would even scold you for things. They would even scold you for things or for behaviors, for practices, which you as a person would feel that it's not your fault. You will feel that nobody told you, nobody told you, or you couldn't see anybody doing that, so how could you imitate that, etc., etc. But they were so strict only for the reason that you do not have these excuses continuously in life and breaking rules of appearances, breaking rules of communications, breaking rules of normal practice, as we in sociologically call that, something which the society accepts as a general norm. Because if you have a sympathetic approach towards people who are breaking rules not because of their own fault, but even if in that case it becomes a habit for them to keep breaking rules. So these are some of the very small but very strongly imprinted instances on my heart. At that time, I would feel very bad for being scolded or for being punished. Today, I realize that that was the approach of the school, a very hard approach towards the discipline, a very strong approach towards the values, ethics, which today I think shape me as a person. If my classmates would have found me too sincere or diligent, I think it's that part of training which got inculcated during that school age. The negative aspects which it brought it with that school age was, from day one, I would have classmates who are visually impaired boys. So hitherto, I had not met any person with blindness that is joining my school till that day. I was playing with the kids who did not have any such problem. Since they were also kids, I don't think any day they would make me realize that I do have that problem. So therefore, I was fairly in a better mental space where I wouldn't know about that problem, therefore I wouldn't think about that problem, and therefore my
Correct.
actions wouldn't get impaired because of that awareness. But when I joined school, all my classmates are having the same problem, and most of them are more mature than me. So they would, through their actions, through their talkings, and through their discussions, would very soon make me realize that this is a limitation that we have. And as in more and more I went aware about that condition, it started hindering my freedom. It started affecting how I approach things, because now there's always a sense of caution that since this is a limitation, you can end up doing these things wrong, or you can end up hurting anyone, or you can end up hurting yourself. So that is a part which brings with awareness, but that has nothing to do with school atmosphere. As we can scientifically say, if the age is such, you very gradually learn about your own life in more positive as well as more detailed manners of the fact, uh, with regards to the fact. So that is the only point which came along with that highly, I would say, strict as well as positively approached towards our development during that school age, I would say.
Understood. So, from what I gather is that at the Happy Home in School for the blind, you were surrounded by people with visual impairment, except the teachers, staff, and management.
Yes.
And afterwards, which is I think after your 10th standard, after the high school, you went to Ruia and then Government Law College. So that would have been a huge transition for you, because what you're saying now wouldn't be applicable, in these institutions, and you would have had to encounter more challenges, which perhaps I think also led towards your excellence in so many spheres. Could you share your experiences that shaped you both at Ruia in your junior college and the Government Law College?
Sure. So when I passed out from my school in 10th standard in 2018, the biggest challenge first I encountered was lack of awareness of everything. So inside the school, I was taught subjects, I was taught vocational training, music, pottery, craft, and other skills. But one thing which I was finding missing was about the career opportunities, which is not specific to any school. I feel every 10th standard kid is not so privileged to go to a school where he'll be taught about the career opportunities and career guidance. So that was one thing. The second thing, which came as an impairment later on, was this was a special school. My parents were not aware that there are schools who can even incorporate me, or maybe the schools were not around my area. So this special school was in Marathi medium. This was not in English medium. So when you pass out in 10th standard, when you want to study junior college, as we call in Maharashtra, the junior college and then the college, you cannot afford to study those higher studies in a vernacular medium simply for the marketability of these courses. Nothing against the language per se. I love Marathi language more than anything, or even more than my mother tongue. But we know the reality is such that you cannot afford to pursue higher studies in these subjects for employability, for biases of the market, etc. So when I stepped up in Ruia, opting for English medium, uh, I pursued arts, humanities in English medium. So from day one, when I sat in my first lecture, that was a history lecture, and the history teacher was speaking only in English. Although later on, I found that teacher to be very friendly, and she was the one who would always have a extra support for me after the lectures and all. She was speaking only in English throughout the lecture. I still remember the lecture was something about the Stone Age. Uh, I don't remember exactly what was the contents, but throughout the lecture, I could only gather two, three things: that it is about the Stone Age man, and whatever knowledge I may have studied in my third standard history in Marathi, I think that was being repeated. That was my bias. So then came the lecture of sociology. Sociology is a subject which is not there in schools. It is highly philosophical and highly abstract. So यहाँ पे, when I started attending that lecture, I don't know what is being taught. And यहाँ पे तो वो guesswork भी नहीं चल रहा है कि maybe the teacher is talking about the Stone Age man. So when I went home after those 3-4 lectures that day, I realized that this is not going to work if I do not learn a language. Because that is the medium of instruction here. I cannot ask them to teach me in different languages in addition to what is being taught to the class. So the first 1 month may have gone tremendously hardworking to learn English. Very basic skill today's market requires to learn English. So that is the first challenge which I encountered. The second challenge, as you rightly said, that during my school age, all my classmates would be persons with blindness or visual impairment. Now I'm in a school where the people are normal. Most of them are normal. People might find offensive if I use the word normal towards them. So normal in the sense they did not have any physical or sensory disability in my batch, except 2-3 boys which had the same disability. So to make friends with them, to eliminate the biases present in their brains, because now they are 17 years old grown-up people who have their own understanding about the world. So to make friends with them, to eliminate biases in them, to make them talk to you, to make them consider you as equal to themselves was another challenge, which I think with the help of the other friends and all the seniors who have already studied in those atmospheres. So a lot of guidance from them, as well as tackling your own problems, deliberating those problems in your mind, thinking about a possible solution, faking things and all, I think helped me to overcome that second challenge. So these were the two important challenges. The third challenge came with the physical barriers. That is, in my school, I'm staying there 5 days a week, spending all my time there. I have gotten myself acquainted with every corner of that building. So there is no something called as inaccessibility in that school, even though the staircase will not be in line with the accessibility standards, or it will be too high, or whatever problem will be there. I wouldn't call them inaccessibility because I am so acquainted with it that I wouldn't find anything to be a problem. But when I step out in a world which has never been an opportunity for me to get acquainted with, I found those challenges, and one more layer of that infrastructural barrier was the indisciplined way of people. So my school was very strict towards discipline. So if I am wandering in that building, I'm not encountering anyone who is highly indisciplined. So when I step out in a world which is not only having problems, which also having problem with people lack of discipline. So I think that was the third challenge, as I call, navigating the new buildings, navigating the new streets, traveling alone in Mumbai's local trains, and how is it? I don't need to comment on Mumbai locals' discipline and sincerity of people and trains. So with all these things, I think these were the three major biggest challenges, and I largely overcame English. I substantially overcame the eliminating biases amongst the people. I think the infrastructural barriers, I am trying my hard to overcome them day by day. Although when I hear that people abroad in other countries have a better place to navigate the infrastructure with no social slash physical barriers, I feel very tempting that why can't India be like that? But yeah, that's the only box which I feel I am trying to tick.
Thank you so much for that answer. I also want to know from you, and this is also for other students who may be not exactly placed as you, but very similar situation as you. How would they overcome, these infrastructural barriers, the physical barriers that they face? A simple example would be, and this is based on because I had myself volunteered for Retina India, National Scribes and Readers Project. And in Government Law College, there was Social Service League, which had Drishti as a project where we used to volunteer and write examination for visually impaired students. Uh, but what I see is there is no clear-cut policy and the support, that comes in. You have also experienced writing the CLAT PG examination and other similar entrances where you may have encountered these issues. And I think you will be in a better position to explain this, that as a student of law or as someone who is giving a competitive exam, how do these barriers, restrict you and how you can overcome them?
Sure, sir. So I would first try to address, as we can call it, the elephant in the room, that is no having a clear-cut policy or support system. I feel the law can mandate such things. The law has mandated such things that there should be a uniform policy, there should be a uniform cell, etc. But I feel one size cannot fit all. So long you do not eliminate the attitudinal as well as prejudicial biases which are there inherent in the mind, no policy or no law can help to eliminate that. As what we are seeing with the cases like untouchability or sexual offenses, there are so strict and stringent laws, but casteism and sexism has not withered away, I think. So how to navigate such atmosphere where you are encountering such attitudinal prejudices and stereotypical behavior of people every day, coupled with lack of insensitivity and supported by government's inability to provide you sufficient infrastructure, I feel a lot of comes from within. There should be a determination. I feel I'm not blaming anyone who is suffering from these lacks or these scarcities, and he can come to me and saying, "Do you mean that I do not have sufficient determination?" But I think it's not about blaming your own capabilities, but it's always about having a determination to fight the system. You cannot keep complaining about the system. You have to rise for yourself. As they call it, there's a couplet in Urdu, Himmate madada to madade khuda. If you want somebody to help you, first you will have to help yourself. Now, commenting on the particular challenges, so let's address the writing exams, because that has been very close to my heart, that has been very close to my mind or mental health, I would say. So till 10th standard, I was in a special school writing my own exams in Braille script because the teachers were equipped with to read Braille. So there was no challenge. They would ask me a question, I would write them, they would be able to read those questions. The challenge comes when your papers are going to be checked by the people who cannot read your script. You see, it's just a matter of perspective. It is not that I cannot read their script alone. They also can't read my script. It's a matter of perspective that therefore I call it. So when I have to write a paper which is going to be checked by a person who cannot read my script, I will have to do something which is readable to them. The traditional approach is I will have a scribe who can write in the script which is readable by them, which I did in my 10th standard board exams. I would have been provided with a scribe who was studying in 9th standard so that the factor is eliminated that they can help me in exam, etc. Now, when I joined my junior college, I went with the same practice in my unit tests, going with the writer. I'll share an instance without naming the teacher there. Once in a class of English language, the teacher was guiding all of us. All of us means the entire batch about the unit test, which questions to prepare, how to write answers. You know, all those teacher-student things before exams, giving the question bank or a informal question bank, so on and so forth. Her last instruction, particularly addressed by my name, was in exams, you have to write your own answers, not your writer's answers. And I think posting about myself that I have always been sincere and diligent in academics, somewhere it hit my heart. It felt like I'm being blamed in front of a class for a crime which I am not done, or either I wouldn't have even thought of committing. So then I felt ki it's not her fault. It's not the teacher's fault to come from those prejudices or stereotypes. It's something which I will have to do with the system so that this factor itself is eliminated. I, along with one of my friends who also later on was my classmate in GLC, he's also a person with visual impairment. We went to so Ruia College had a special cell for persons with disability. GLC did not have until we fought for it, and now it has on paper. So we went to that cell, we went to that teacher, we did not share the instance that we are hurt, etc., etc. We just inquired very positively, can we write our exams on our own with the help of computers? We did not have ourselves the confidence whether we'll be able to catch up with the speed and time-bound exams, but still we wanted that independence is more important than excelling in that exam. Even though I scored 35 out of 100, it will be my own without any prejudices. That was our approach. But the college said, yes, that's a very good idea, but currently we do not have the infrastructure. And since we were also kids, we couldn't take it to the logical conclusion. So in 11th standard and 12th standard, I ended up writing all my exams, having a scribe to write those, including the 12th boards. After 12th boards, even the law CET came where it was a computer-based test, but the computers were not equipped with the screen reader software. So there also I had to take a writer scribe. So law CET also was with the help of with the assistance help of a scribe. Then came COVID, or rather COVID was going on. Then came GLC. Exams were online. And the first semester, I wrote my exam. So till that, I wrote my assignments in soft copy. Thanks to the COVID, everybody was writing their assignments on computer. People have lost touch now to handwriting, and suddenly the world has started coming closer to what I am comfortable with. So I didn't have to take even a permission that, ma'am, can I submit my typed assignments? So I started writing my own assignments, started feeling the freedom that, wow, when you can create some material on your own, with your own intellect, not having to dictate it to someone, because in dictation, a lot of your intellect gets diluted from the fear of judgment. It's a very common phenomenon which I've experienced. So the exams, just around the exams, I felt that I'll write my exams on my own. But a problem which I was encountering here in my place where I now live, there is a problem of electricity, and it was summers. So I was afraid that I have a desktop. What if the light goes away? The power gets disconnected during the exam. So I could not write my exam on my own in that semester as well, despite having the full opportunity. I appointed someone as a scribe to write the exams on my phone, because on phone typing, it's a bit difficult with Google Talkback. So, but from second semester onwards, I bought laptop just for this purpose, that I want to eliminate this factor as well. And from second semester onwards, without taking permission from college, of course, I am not required to, I started typing out my exams on my own. And I was very happy that the confidence which I did not have about the whether I will be able to catch up with the speed of the time-bound exam. The second semester as well as the third semester exam, I did not face this problem at all. Although if you would recall, if you are aware, that during COVID, the exam pattern was slightly changed. It was subject to less and more MCQs, or rather it was MCQ for 30 marks and subjective for 30 marks. It was fairly easy and less to write type of a format. From fourth semester onwards, when the college became offline, we again, we as in me and one of my batchmates, whose name is Yash, we again went to a situation where we'll have to take a permission to either use a scribe or to write our exams on our own. But now, since I have made myself accustomed so much to write the exams on my own, I cannot think of going back to the scribe system. So there came a battle in GLC before the college offline starting, me fighting my first battle, which was very nicely supported by the college administration, very positively responded to and fully accorded the support which I needed. So basically, I went to the principal with an application stating that there are 2-3 reasons because of which I cannot use a scribe for this examination. So as an alternative, please allow me to write my exams on computer. The reasons which I cited was very, I would say, manufactured reasons at that time. I manufactured reasons like, since these are COVID times, the scribe would not be allowed to sit so close to me. And this is a requirement when you are dictating an exam. The secondly is many of the scribes have lost touch with the handwriting. So I don't want to suffer because of their lost touch. Thirdly, parents are also not willing to send their kids to write up papers just for social distancing apprehensions. And fourthly, I want to write my exam pursuant to this circular, which allows me to write. So the application was received, as I said, in well spirits. I was allowed to write my exam on a computer, typing my own answers. And they also provided me question papers, which were screen readable by the screen reader software. So I did not require a human intervention to complete my exam, to take my exam, and which perhaps even till date I would recall, it eliminates that particular prejudice or stereotype, so that no other teacher is ever having the guts to warn me that I have to write my own answers in the exam and not the writer's answers. Like that has been my journey with respect to exams throughout, even the university exams, and then I'm now pursuing the LLM. So even the LLM semester 1 exams I wrote on my own. Although the challenge is that since there is no uniform policy, you have to take permission every semester, or rather before every exam. And therefore, that is a challenge, but I don't see it as a challenge. I just see it as a routine which you have to follow. With regards to other things, I think fairly the things get taken care of if you are proactive enough. I'm referring to things such as accessible study material or participating in co-curricular activities with equal opportunity and equal participation. There, you largely have to depend on your peers. But this dependence is not that they will do your work. This dependence is to find out the system, to find out the way outs in the system. And this is where your peers are going to be your best friends in the physical as well as the abstract sense, that they will be the best persons to guide you how is a particular challenge has to be encountered. And I think I owe a lot to my friends in that aspect. If I could participate in so many co-curricular as well as extracurricular activities in GLC, I owe a lot of it to my friends who would beforehand guide me about the situation, even tell me that these can be the things where you will encounter problems, or when you will encounter limitations owing to a disability, and then allowing me sufficient time to think that whether I can overcome those. If yes, then how? And if I cannot, then is it the only option to drop out of that competition, so on and so forth. And for this, I owe a lot to the GLC people, even the seniors who are there in the organizing committees, and also, yeah. So I think here that part is largely about how you approach, how you socialize, how bold you are, and how less you get afraid of the system, and how more positively you look at the system, because we have a long way to go where you don't have to worry about these things and people will be taking care of it without you even asking for them.
Super. So it figures that you are someone who always stands up for yourself and fights for your rights. How did PCGT as an organization shape you in not only advancing your own interests, but also larger public interest? and contributing to the larger societal good, which you have through so many other initiatives as well. But specifically, this question is for PCGT because I'm going to show this to all the interns.
Awesome. Thank you. So, if you see the timeline, I interned in PCGT in my first year of law school. I did that only with the purpose of following the guideline or for following the guidance which is received from the seniors to every junior, that your internship should be planned like this. Your first year, something can be an NGO internship, and so on and so forth. You know the popular mantra. So I applied with that objective. But when I gotten in, the internship schedule that was there from the day 1 till day 31 of the August month, it was such designed that largely it would align with my interest. And secondly, not only it would align with my interest, but it would open doors for me to think that what else I can do in order to whatever I'm learning here to use. So very basic example could be Rangarao sir teaching you RTI. So he wasn't only teaching you RTI in a strict sense of the Right to Information Act. He was teaching you the practical difficulties that an RTI activists face, whether it is related to filing the RTIs, pursuing them, or whether it's just a reputation being attached with you that you are an RTI activist and then whatever you face as an RTI activist. So as an 18 years old kid, nobody is there to guide you about those things in detail unless you meet a person who is actually suffering or going through those. So PCGT was a platform for those things. There was Kuchor, where Rekha ma'am would guide us about the values. And we would observe that the lectures are happening in presence of children who are in schools, who are teenagers, 13, 14 years old kids. And if the values are being taught to them, then this is something actually Kuchor. And there also we got the opportunity to test ourselves. So in Kuchor, as you know, there was an initiative where we would be guided or we would be allotted topics so that we can come up with some educating content for the children, for the school going children. And that is your real test because you have to teach something to them which they can understand at their IQ level, as well as you are also not so skilled in your subjects. So when you are put into these kind of challenges, these kind of I would say these kind of assignments, when you get, you as a personality, you as a personality are very fortunately blessed with an opportunity to test yourselves, to improve yourselves. So, and then comes the creamy part of that internship, the most important part, or we can say the cherry on the cake, etc. The sessions that you attend, who are guided, who are led by retired IAS officers, retired IPS officers, they share their experiences. And not only they share their experiences, they make you ask questions. You know, no matter how intellectual the person is when he's delivering lectures, you can only improve yourself when I feel you listen to them attentively and you are compelled to ask the right questions. So I would remember VP Raja sir taking lectures on his experiences as a retired IAS officer when he was with the Maharashtra government. But he would never share the experiences for the matter of sharing the experiences. He would start his lectures with a very philosophical question. And then throughout that lecture, if your mind is attentive, you will be finding that answer, or you'll be finding the answer to that particular question in everything that he's sharing, which compels you to ask him good questions. And through this, the mental development which happens, I think perhaps that can only happen in a classroom where there is a lot of free speech and expression. So that internship was such where on one point you are meeting excellent teachers, on another point you're meeting excellent people who have done a lot in their life as to their contribution towards the society. And when these people share their experiences, make you think, coupled with the fact that your interests also align with those things, be it bringing change in the society or improving the society from where it is, eliminating corruption or helping someone to fight for their basic rights, I think it was a perfect match for anyone with the similar interests.
Thank you, Sarvesh. Um, I'm really happy. I was just thinking about this, the sessions that we had and the podcast, the first episode with Ribeiro sir. And I think this was for your batch that you had to see it. And
Yes.
now you will be on the episode, and this will be for the interns. And the way I think you have articulated your experience is something really, really insightful and inspiring. And it will help a lot of students not only to make the right choice about their internship, which they may, always be confused about. And I will ask about litigation versus in-house and all that later. But in also doing something good for the society while they are in college, because this is something which is extremely crucial because law is an instrument of social change ultimately. And I think that conscience, that righteousness has to be there and instilled from the first year itself. The value system and the ethics have to be instilled from the first year itself. Um, Keeping that in mind, and taking this discussion forward, we know for a fact that you are extremely interested in pursuing academics. You had so many opportunities after completing your LLB from GLC, but you decided to pursue an in-house role at Godrej Living, where you're currently working. Uh, what were the factors that led to this particular decision? Number one, that's the first part of the question. The second part is how has your experience been? If you can just share your experience of working as a legal consultant right now with Godrej. Um, and third would be that where will, and I'm sorry, I don't like this question personally if somebody asks, but where do we see Sarvesh after 5 years? Where do we see Sarvesh after 10 years? Something like that. Whatever timeline, you would prefer in terms of the long-term vision that you have, if you could share with us. So a three-part question, if you could please answer.
Sure. So, first question, that is why I chose to work in an in-house setup despite having so much passion and opportunities towards pursuing academia. So, it's a belief system. When I was in my fifth year, I felt that I'm right now in my fifth year. I'll be graduating in around some months. The LLM would take a matter of a year from there onwards. I imagined myself that as a 24 years old kid who would go to colleges and to teach, what will I bring more than the person who is 23 years old studying in fifth year? Shouldn't there be some gap between the Dronacharya and the Arjun? The experience, the exposure, the practical, I would say, personal experiences, having experienced something which you're going to teach. And there hit me that particular realization hit me that I cannot go with this skill set or only this amount of theoretical knowledge in a classroom, because then at best it will be two people with similar interest exploring their research and exploring the curiosities. That's not a harmful situation, but if I really want to teach something, I should be skilled in it, I should be experienced in it, and I should have the practical exposure to it, so that I'm not teaching something to the students which after 1 year they realize that they need to unlearn it. That's what largely happens in a theoretical education impartment setup. So therefore, I chose that I should work for some years where I'll gain the practical experience, which is necessary for my theoretical as well as the teaching perspective, uh, understanding of the subjects. Now, how has been my experience in my current job role? So it has been actually excellent, and it has been near to what I was expecting to when I said that I want to join something where I'll gain the practical exposure. In-house, so here what my job roles are, to speak the few, it's related to agreement reviews, agreement negotiations. You can even find me responding to some legal notices, or you can even find me drafting an advisory note why a particular practice or why a particular corporate strategy cannot be adopted or can be adopted. So it's a very wide role which I am under. It's not only related to litigation or contracts in isolation, but it is it spans across arenas, as you can see. However, as it must be mentioned that in-house comes up with its own limitations as compared to litigation. Because in litigation, every day you're getting a new, or not one, you're getting several new challenges every day to find an answer to, find a legal proposition which is not in sync with the codified law. Then you passionately sit, you find case laws and all. So that is something which I'm missing in my current job. But if I exclude that factor, because litigation though comes up with this factor, for a person with my background, it came with a lot of other challenges. So if I count those, I find myself currently I am placed in a very uh, as better position compared to what I would have had the early struggles of litigation. Apart from liking my own job, which comes up with the comfort as well as the challenges and the encouragement to gain the practical exposure. One more factor which I would like to bring here about that particular job is that currently I'm in a team where I have a very small team, which is a very fact of the reality. That when you are as they call it, a fish in a small pond. I wouldn't call myself a big fish, a fish in the small pond. You gain a lot of exposure. So that is something which I'm getting here. Uh, Even if I comment on the aspects which are linked with my limitations as a visually impaired lawyer, the company is very much in sync with their policies towards such people. And I don't think in my last 1 year of experience or 10 odd months of experience, I ever encountered a problem which couldn't be solved and or which I found some difficulties to tackle. So yeah, that has been my experience. If you ask me where do I see myself in 5, 8 years, my passion lies towards teaching in public policy. So hopefully I become more eligible towards that path within 5 or 8 years. I cannot assign a number to it, but if you pay hit to my first answer, why did I choose to delay my academia? If I feel that I have accomplished that particular thing, which enables me to stand before the class of students and not to bluff, but to speak absolutely practical things, then you will find me in academia.
Superb. I think you have that quality now. So, so I don't know when you will feel that you will reach that stage, but I can see that, and I strongly feel that you have that quality, even now. So, so yeah, Sarvesh, I think that's mostly about it, but before we actually end this show, this episode, I want to ask you if there's anything else that you would like to share. It's not any specific question. Also, if you have to suggest something to law students, to any student who is facing visual impairment or any kind of restriction, uh, any kind of obstruction, so to say. Because as I said, you are an inspiration for a lot of people, and your words would mean a lot to them. So if you want to share on that note anything or anything else, as I said, which you would like to share, please go ahead.
Sure, I would say thank you for this opportunity, but you can delete this portion if I'm taking too much liberty, if that goes against your policies.
Not at all.
So,
Policy.
so as you prefer to call this podcast as role models, and when we met and you said that you want to interview me for this podcast, I also agreed. And you also would like to introduce me as a role model, but I'll try to guide here, or I'll try to, I would say, advise here, or give an unsolicited advice to people who would be watching this and in general about life. That is, it such happens with persons with disability always. I would start with a line which I had listened somewhere and it struck me. The line was about, you assume that our life has been extremely tragic. Everything we do is not magic. And why do I bring that here? Because it's very unlikely in general setup for a 24 years old kid having achieved this much to be called a role model. Somewhere the assumption that I'm a role model comes from the assumption that despite so much tragedies and so much challenges, I could overcome this. I would say mathematically 50 to 60% of this assumption is undeniable. Because if that was that easy, then every person with blindness would have achieved the same feat given the same opportunities. But 40 to 50% of it relates to the opportunities, relates to the circumstantial differences which each of us face. So yeah, in that sense, I will be proud if I am in coming years continue to excel in my field, so that the role model tag, if attached to me from today onwards in this podcast is never felt unjustified. That will be on my responsibility. But in general, it is the society's responsibility to not to look at people with so many high expectations and the so much height assumptions which are not backed by your experiences or facts. So for example, when this affects the person's approach towards the society, and the basic things which comes up with over appreciations. The very basic thing which I can mention here is the performance pressure or the social pressure not to fail. So if you are constantly hearing here and there that you are this, you are that, you cannot afford to fail in such atmospheres. So tagging someone a role model with an assumption comes with a lot of risks and challenges, and that constantly happens with persons with disability, because the persons without disabilities chose to have an ableist approach where they feel that those who have the abilities can do some things easily, but those without abilities cannot. And sometimes the things which they are assuming that persons without abilities cannot do, sometimes they even permeate into very basic things like calculating 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 orally. I wouldn't be surprised if a person with blindness in public is appreciated for calculating 9 plus 17 is equal to 26 orally. They will say, wow, your math is so fast. And this is not a genuine appreciation. Many a times I feel that comes with an assumption, as I say, that despite so many tragedies, he could do that. So yeah, everything of the tragedical part cannot be linked with everything that the person does. This is the message which I want to give to the people who look towards the people with certain prejudices. This doesn't apply to only persons with disabilities, although I have personal experiences in that regard. Ableism is as much harmful as you can call benevolent sexism, which is harmful for women. When women are over appreciated for something, when people say, despite being a woman, you could do that. This despite is not always factual, guys. So that's the message which I would like to give you.
Great. Anything else that you would like to say?
No, apart from that, thank you very much, Shivam sir, for having me on this podcast. And I hope we are able to debunk several myths about myself as well in front of the people. And yeah, thanks a lot.
It was truly my pleasure, and all the very best for everything ahead. We are very proud of you, and we are very fond of you. So all that praise comes from that space of mind. And also, I personally wish you the very best for everything, that you're going to do. You're doing an amazing job. I'm sure you'll continue to do well with everything. And this episode will be watched by so many students who will listen to you and take this practical note, especially what you said towards the last bit. I think is applicable to each person, including how we perceive things, including myself, to be very honest. So whatever you have shared is going to be so much of practical input to the people who are going to watch this particular episode. And it was truly an honor to have this conversation. Thank you for taking out the time for this. And it's because of you that, as I said, I could resume after 3 years. Even I didn't think, and have this special, amazing episode with you. So thanks so much, Sarvesh.
Thanks a lot, Shivam, sir. It's my pleasure to be here. And all the best that the channel's revival now is forever.
Thank you so much.